Hey everyone, welcome to the People Pro channel and a brand new video. And we just recorded another video where I was speaking for John's channel. And in case you didn't understand, and well, you weren't actually supposed to understand, this is John Boseak, an American gangster and an American carder. If you remember, our channel started with the topic of carding, and now we're going back to the roots. As for John, he also did some time, and he'll tell you how much he did in an American prison. He used to make fake credit cards, documents, and so on. Basically, he was one of the main vendors of fake credit cards in the world, and now we're going to talk about all of that. He now lives in Thailand and runs a travel channel, but in English, of course, so write your questions. Since both he and I are in Thailand, we can meet up a bit more often. And by the way, this interview will be in English. Please forgive my heavy Russian accent, but I'll try to translate everything so you can understand.
John, nice to meet you in Thailand.
Oh man, nice to be here, man. Nice to be here. Finally.
Two inmates in one room. How the crime was started in your life? And I'm not about cybercrime.
Yeah, no, it started really early. I had a really rough childhood. I was kind of a troubled youth. My mother and my father weren't together.
Divorced?
While I was growing. They were never married, so I grew up with just my mother, a single mother, and she had to work two jobs to pay the bills, to keep food on the table. So there wasn't really there were no rules for me growing up. I had no bedtime, I had no curfew, I had no, nobody was making me sit at the table and do my homework and eat my meals or nothing like that. So I didn't grow up with any kind of guidance from a very young age. So the influences in my life were overwhelmingly negative. Because of the kids in the neighborhood, I was influenced by bad kids in the neighborhood, or I'd go to school and I'd get in trouble all the time. And
have you visited paid school or regular school?
Regular school. Yeah, I went to public school.
Not private school.
No. I went to public school my whole entire life, yeah. So it started from a really young age. I just started acting out. A lot of it came from just trying to get attention because I didn't really get a whole lot of attention as a youngster. So it started with just simple theft, like stealing bicycles, shoplifting from the mall, stealing candy from the candy store. It started
Just candy?
Yeah, it started small. And then as I got older, the crimes became bigger. I started stealing cars. I was with like a car theft ring where I was stealing cars, like 13 years old. I was stealing cars.
Like in GTA.
Yes.
Computer game.
Yeah, Grand Theft Auto, yeah. So I was stealing cars. And then that progressed to kind of like more higher fraud. Like I gained access to the public library, the computer system of the Fort Lauderdale public library system. So I had administrator access to the computer system for the public library, so I could add and remove programs whenever I wanted to. So I put Photoshop. So there was one computer in the back of the library, and I would put programs on the computer, and I would hide the programs on the computer, so nobody knew they were on there but me. So I had my own administrator access. So I would set up Photoshop. I would set up, back in the day, there was like LimeWire and BearShare for like P2P files for like music and other things.
Torrents.
Yes, torrents. And so I would burn CDs, discs of music, and I would sell those at school. I would make...
How old?
13.
Have you been 14?
13, yeah. 13 is when all the crime really started. I started making coupons on Photoshop for like fast food restaurants and pizza. I would make the coupons, and I figured out how the UPC system worked, the barcode system, the algorithm for the barcoding on the coupons. So once I figured that out, I knew how to type the algorithm for the barcodes to make them work. So I would take food coupons because I was living on the street. My mother kind of moved away when I was very young. She moved back to Michigan, and I stayed in Florida.
From Michigan to Florida.
Yeah. So my whole family, I was born in Michigan. I'm from Michigan. My mother moved.
And how long have you been living in Michigan?
So I never really lived in Michigan. I was born in Michigan in 1985. And then in 1992, my mother moved me and my little brother down to Florida. And then in 1996, she moved back to Michigan. but I stayed in Florida because I was in a boot camp for bad kids because I got caught stealing cars. So while I was incarcerated, my mother moved back to Florida or back to Michigan. So when I got out of incarceration, I didn't have anywhere to go. So I was just on the street, you know, like, so I was making coupons to eat at the restaurants. I would go to like a drugstore and I would buy I wouldn't buy them. I would steal these pills for women's menstrual, like for women having like PMS, but they were white and they had butterflies on them. So I used to take them all out of the package and I used to put them in little baggies. And I used to go down to Miami Beach on the weekend and sell them as ecstasy for like $20 each. You know what I mean? Like,
So the third thing you counterfeit in your life, it was wannabe ecstasy.
yeah. So it was
fake ecstasy.
It was coupons, and then I started. So yeah, I started counterfeiting almost immediately once I figured out how to use Photoshop. And I got on Photoshop in the early days. You know, this is like right after Windows 98 it came out, and like the original, like the early Adobe products. I was on the ground floor. I started using Photoshop.
Who teach you Photoshop?
I learned from so I was at a home for homeless youth, for kids who didn't have anywhere to go. And one of the staff members that worked there was a graphic design artist. And he just worked there like on the weekends and stuff like that to volunteer to help with, you know, kids. He's seen that I had kind of an aptitude for computers and design, and we were always talking. So he sat me down and he showed me a few things here or there. And then I remember I kind of just picked it up on my own. And once I started using the programs, it wasn't that hard at all.
He showed you legal things and you decided to do illegal things.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Was it inside you from the childhood to make criminals, to make a crime, or it was because you had the worst life conditions?
I think it was mainly because of just my situation, my life conditions. Yeah, I was homeless. I had a lot of issues with food, insecurity. Like I would be hungry all the time. And so I had to go into stores to steal food, to eat every day. It sucks to have to say this, but as like 13, 14, I would have to go into a dumpster behind like Pizza Hut at the end of the night, and I'd be digging through the dumpster, eating, you know, food left over. It was bad. Like it was just a bad situation.
I never tried something from trash can.
Yeah, and it was like, you know, it was either that or go to the store and steal. Like there was nowhere for me to go for anybody to help me when I was you know, young. So
One question about what you dreamed at that times.
What do you mean?
You were a homeless kid, every time angry. With your mom far away from
Gone,
you.
Yeah.
And what was your dreams that days?
What would I think about, you mean?
Your desires, yeah.
You know, I didn't have the luxury of thinking about the future or thinking about any of that. I was living moment to moment. You know, like what am I going to do 3 hours from now? What am I going to eat? Where am I going to sleep? It was the constant, you know, monotony of having to figure out everything as I go. I couldn't really think about the future. You know, I couldn't think about my education. I couldn't think about, you know, learning a new skill or saving money.
But if you had the possibility, to think about future, describe this future.
Honestly, I would like now, like in the frame of mind I'm in now or back then. It was girls. I wanted a nice car. I wanted to be recognized. I wanted people to pay attention to me because I felt like my whole life, nobody ever really paid any attention to me. So I think at that time, I just wanted people to notice me. I wanted people to see me. I wanted to have a nice car. I wanted a pretty girlfriend.
So you wanted an attention?
I think that's what it was.
Could be pretty famous, for example.
Yeah.
Or not?
Yeah, well, I don't know so much famous, but I wanted attention. Yeah, I wanted people to notice me.
Maybe it's because your mom didn't give you attention. Yeah, it was a reason.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. I didn't get any attention growing up. Like my dad wasn't around. My mother had to work.
You know your dad.
Yeah. I have a good relationship with my father. He just, you know, him and my mother couldn't get along. They just did not get along at all. So I think that's a lot of the reason why he just didn't come around while I was younger. But no, I have a good relationship with my father now. He's in his 60s. I think he's going to be 70 pretty soon. He's older now, you know. So it's like he lives in Michigan, you know, on a farm, like out in the woods. So
you wasn't a lone kid in your family. You had
I have a younger brother. Yeah, I grew up with my younger brother. Yeah, me and him grew up together.
what's the difference in age? How many years?
I'm about 3 years older than he is. So he's 3 years younger than I am. Yeah.
Chris.
Chris, yeah. It was
I've
me and
written
him.
in one article.
Yeah, I mean, me and him, we grew up together. We're best friends, pretty much, And then we kind of like split up when I was like 19 or 20. We just stopped talking for many years until later
Why?
on. Yeah, 2005 or 2006. I think he came down to Florida and moved in with me, and then we kind of, got back together.
He was homeless with you too?
No.
He was with mom?
Yeah, he was with mom. Yeah, I was the problem child. I was always creating problems, sneaking out at night, getting caught, brought home by the police all the time, going to juvenile hall, boot camps. My little brother didn't have those problems. He didn't have the behavioral problems that I had for whatever reason. We have different dads too. Like we have different fathers.
Different days?
Yeah, we don't have the same father. So I think it's a lot of it has to do with like genetic. We're just two completely
Different DNA.
The DNA is different. Yeah, we're wired different for sure.
And your parents is Polish, yeah?
Yeah, both my parents are Polish.
Because his last name?
His last name is Boseak, which in Russian roughly means barefoot.
I told about your barefoot. Your last name.
Yeah. No, I mean I'm Polish. Grew up Polish.
So you are absolutely 100% Polish inside.
Yeah. Yeah, both my grandparents.
And you know a few words in Polish language, not?
Jak se máš? Tak studia Brakslava.
Kurwa pierdolona.
I know a few, yeah.
Matka Boska.
Matka Boska, yeah. I know a few. Yep. Yeah, so I just started scamming as soon as I could figure out how to use a computer. We're talking Linux, Windows 98, early, before the first Mac even came out. I was on Windows. So I've had an aptitude for technology from a very, very young age. I understand it. I have the patience for it. And for whatever reason, I have a really good memory. I tell people always tell me, oh, you're really smart. I'm telling them, I'm not. I don't really feel like I'm that smart. I have a really good memory, so I'm able to remember things and I'm able to kind of, regurgitate that information, at convenient times to make myself look smarter than I really am. But really, it's just I have a good memory.
I think if you have a good memory, I have a good memory too.
Yeah.
It's one of the best things in your life because you have possibility to get books and a few things more easy. Yeah. Because you remember everything.
You retain information. Yeah, and I like in like movies and music, I know every word to every song I've ever heard. I remember all the lines from every movie I've ever watched. And it's not something that I try to do. It's just something that happens automatically.
I remember every last name of inmate who I met in prison. And this is it was about maybe 300-400 people around me, closest around, I think. Yeah. And also I remember faces.
Yes. Yeah.
What was your favorite food at that times when you was homeless? Favorite food?
Oh man, my go-to was ramen noodles, the cup of noodles. And at 7-Elevens in the United States, they have this machine where you can get so say you buy some nachos, you open the nachos and you go to this machine and you can get chili and you can get cheese to press 2 buttons. So I used to get the little cup of noodles and get the hot water and then go to the machine with the cheese and the chili and fill it up and then mix that up. I mean, it's like $1, like $1.25.
Only one cheese inside.
Yeah.
Cheese.
Yeah. Chili, cheese. I'd mix it up. And that was my go-to. I ate that pretty much every day.
And how much it was?
About $1, about $1.25. Yeah, it's super cheap. Yeah, and I have Crohn's disease now. I think because of all of those years of just living on the street and eating really, really poorly and having a poor diet, no nutrition. I wasn't taking vitamins. Plus I was drinking alcohol on top of, just being homeless. And I think a lot of that contributed to I have Crohn's now.
So until which age you were homeless? From
about the age of 13 until I graduated college when I was 20. I was 20 years old. I went to the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale, and I got my associate's degree in graphic design.
Graphic design.
Yeah, but I was homeless while I was in college. Like I was living in my car.
But college, I think it cost a lot. Not?
Yeah, I had student loans. Yeah, I had gotten student loans.
Credit.
Yeah, it's like a loan from the government to pay for your college with a crazy high interest rate. So I got like a student loan to go to college, and they got something called financial aid for like people who are poor or like underprivileged kids. They also help you with like financial aid.
And after you should pay back them.
You don't have to pay back the financial aid, but you have to pay back the student loans. So I was saddled with like $100,000 in debt after I got out.
100,000?
It was about $100,000 for a 2-year degree after I got out of college.
50,000.
It's about $50K a year. Yeah, for the Art Institute.
Today, a friend of mine was here on your place. We made interview, and he's looking for a university for his daughter, and he told me that Harvard University in the United States 70,000 1 year. No.
Very expensive.
70,000.
Very expensive. Yeah. So and I was sleeping in my car in the parking garage on campus of the college I was going to, because I couldn't afford an apartment. I could barely afford gas.
But they should not. They should to find your apartment.
You would think, but there's no programs like that. They would help you with the tuition, and that's it. No housing, no food, no meals, no nothing like that. Yeah, so I had to figure all of that out on my own. Yeah, so I was sleeping in my car on campus for almost 2 years while I was going to college. And then,
but what about shower?
So I would have a gym membership, and I would shower at the gym, or I would shower at the beach, because they got the showers at the beach. So, and it was like, I didn't look homeless. I always had on clean clothes. I was always showered. And I had friends, so I would go sometimes, and I would stay at a friend's house for 2 or 3 days. But you can only do that so much, before people are like, yeah, you got to figure your stuff out. So it was like every day was just, I'd wake up and I would just figure out how to survive for that day. And that was pretty much my life for many, many years until I graduated college and, actually got a good job.
You had girlfriend?
Yeah. Periodically had girlfriends here and there.
Different girls?
Yeah, different girls here and there. Oh yeah, always. Yeah, of course. I'd go to their house, I'd stay with them for a little while, and, they'd give me money, and, you do what you can.
Have you been a good student, as for opinion?
I was always a good student. Yeah, even in high school, I got good grades. The schoolwork for me was never challenging. I never felt like it was difficult. I could sit down, I could complete my assignments, and I was usually like one of the first ones done in the class. And then I'd get restless and I'd start creating problems because the work just wasn't challenging. So when I graduated high school, I graduated with a 3.59 GPA.
Is it high?
Out of 4.0 is the best you can get. So it's pretty high. It's pretty good. And then when I went to college, even in my college classes, I got almost straight A's, perfect grades. And because I was homeless, when I wasn't taking classes for graphic design, I would go to campus and I would sit in other classes that I wasn't even taking. Because if you were a student there, they would let you sit in on the class, but you weren't going to get any credit for it. Like you weren't going to get like a degree in whatever class you were sitting in. So on top of going to school for graphic design, I learned videography. I learned color coding.
Calligraphic?
Color for like, for video editing, and I learned sound design. Mm-hmm. So I was going to school for 2 majors really, but I was only getting credit for one because I couldn't afford to go to school for the other major. So I was learning the video editing and all of that side, and then I was learning the graphic design side of everything. I learned C++. I learned cascading screen style CSS. I learned Adobe. I learned real big back then was the Adobe Flash.
Corel Draw.
Yeah, Corel Draw.
Vector graphics.
Yep. And so I learned
very expensive software. Very expensive.
Very expensive
I think
software.
It was cost about maybe $3,000 at that times.
Yeah,
very
at that
expensive.
Time. Out of the question. But because
and Photoshop too, but not so expensive, but expensive too.
But because I was going to school for it, the school gave me the whole Adobe suite. Mm-hmm. So I got all of the Adobe programs with my tuition for paying for the tuition. So I got them all for free. I got Photoshop, I got Adobe Illustrator, and then like the video editor and all that stuff.
Acrobat Reader for PDF. You know the fact that in Russia we had the possibility to get thousands of software in one CD room for $3.
Oh yeah. I heard about that.
Pirated software, sure.
And I had pirated versions of all the Adobe software. You just got to get the key code, the whatever that is.
Cracks of it.
Yeah.
Like cheat codes.
Then you got to go into the program files and you got to delete the certain files because that would tell it to look for the key. And I remember that back in the day. I got them all on torrents. I would download it on the torrent and then the crack would come with it. Yeah.
And a lot of hackers used torrents for distribute viruses.
Yeah. I know. I've had a couple computers just take a shit on me.
Okay. It was your juvenile crime, bicycles, and after you told about the cars. But what about cybercrime? How you get involved into it?
Sure, yeah. So, okay, I'll tell you exactly how it happened. When I was graduating...
In which age?
I was, 2005, I think I got into it. So I was 20. I was 20 years old. And I'm 40. I'm going to be 40 now. So, yeah, 20 years ago. So when I graduated from the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale, every time they have like a graduating class, they have something called a job fair at the end of the curriculum. And it's where, so for the 2 years I'm there, I'm working on like mock projects. So by the end of the 2 years, I have a portfolio of all of the projects I've completed while I was there. Now, I do something called corporate packaging, where I would do like a company logo, company letterhead. I would create the employee handbook. I would do like the color graphics for the company, for a company that didn't exist.
I understand. All brand book and so on.
Yes. So I would do all that. So I had all of these projects that I had worked on.
Company style.
Yeah, I had all of these projects that I had worked on over the 2 years. So when they had the job fair, you take your portfolio to the job fair and prospective employers come to the school and they talk to kids that are graduating because maybe they want to hire you.
They come themselves
to
your school?
The employers.
And this is American practice?
Yes.
In every college in every university?
In the Art Institute where I was at. Because what they're doing is they're trying to get you to go straight into the job market, straight out of college. So they want to provide you an opportunity to be able to come in contact with people that are in your field of what you're studying, what you're getting your degree for. When I went to the job fair, they had all these tables set up and there were different companies. And I would go and I'd be like, here's my portfolio and this is what I've been working on the past 2 years.
Was it a really good portfolio, as your opinion?
I did because I felt like I had a better understanding of what they were trying to teach me than anybody else. Because I was already doing it before I went to...
Because it's your talent.
It's just what I like to do. Yeah, it's just what I like to do. I'm good at it. I'm creative. I've always been an artist. I've been drawing since I was, a very, very young child. I've been painting. I started painting when I was like 9 or 10 years old. I started doing painting. So I've always...
So you have paintings now?
I do, yeah. I do canvas painting. Well, they're in the States. I don't have them here with me.
We will show you here.
Yeah, I don't have them here with me, but they're in the States. But yeah, so I was doing canvas paintings. And then when I got into like the digital art, I was just like, oh, well, because you're taking something where you can only create on a two-dimensional surface. Now you've got all these different dimensions that you can create in with Photoshop, with layers and all that other stuff. So I was just really good at it, and I did very well. So the portfolio I had, I kind of felt it was a little bit better than a lot of the other kids at my graduating class. When I went to this job fair, I would present my portfolio. And then, I would tell them, this is what I've been working on. This is what I'm good at. This is where I excel at. And then the company would be like, okay, well, this is what we do. This is what our business is. This is what we're looking for. So after I did that, I didn't hear anything. And about 2 weeks or 3 weeks after I graduated, one of the counselors from my school called me and told me that one of the companies that I had been talking to wanted to hire me. I went in for an interview, and they hired me right away as lead graphic design artist. Well, I wasn't lead graphic design artist. I was right underneath the head guy. So there was like the lead graphic design artist, and then there was me. So they hired me.
Second after
I was the second
lead.
Yes, I was the second guy in command. It was a company, and they did screen printing. So they did T-shirts, they did banners, they did flyers, they did auto wraps for like the cars. They had these giant printers about the size of this table, and they would print out the whole wrap.
Plotters.
Yes, plotters. And so then they did auto wraps. They did pretty much any printable media. We had screen printing. We did subliminal dye printing. We did DTC, direct-to-garment printing. And this is where I learned a lot about printers and printing, and which would come in handy down the line a little bit later when I started making credit cards. But when I went to go work for this company, they gave me $80,000 a year.
It's not a big amount.
Well,
or big
for me, for a 20-year-old kid,
student.
For a 20-year-old kid that's been homeless his whole life, $80,000. I'm like, holy shit, you know. And it's graphic design. It's not like I'm on a construction site
and not
hanging drywall.
Not programming.
No, I'm not programming. I'm not doing anything. I mean, it's just creative. It's what I like to do.
Okay, 90,000 is a good amount
for graphic design. I'm
for
doing
yesterday student.
Yeah, and I'm doing all the projects. Like projects are coming in, and I'm handling everything. Like I'm doing, you know, I'm working with the customer. I'm handling. I'm spearheading the projects. And then I get hired. I worked there for about 1 year. The guy that was right above me, his visa, he had some kind of problem with his visa, so he had to go back to his country. The people that owned the company were from Panama, either Panama or Colombia, one of the two, one of the South American countries. And because this is in Miami's predominantly
Spanish language
Hispanic.
everywhere.
Nobody speaks English. It's all Hispanic. Yeah. Everybody
speak Spanish?
Sí, yo hablo español también. And I speak Spanish well, from Miami. I worked there for about a year, and the guy I was working under, his visa had a problem. He had to go back to his country. So then they made me lead graphic design artist. So they put me in charge, and then I had to hire 2 people to work under me. So I had my own team of graphic design artists. So I was basically, you know, project manager at this point. You know, I wasn't even really doing any work. I was just organizing and then delegating all of the work to my team, and then making sure that, you know, we're hitting the deadlines, making sure that
I understand we have a lot of project managers in our businesses.
Yeah. So that was my main title at that point. So one day I show up to work, and I pull into the parking lot, and there's FBI everywhere. They got the wind. They got and they got the jackets with the FBI on the back, and there was like black SUVs. I thought they were filming a movie, because in Miami they film movies all over the place. I'm thinking, I'm coming to work. I'm like, holy shit, they're filming a movie over here. This is kind of cool. And I walk around the building, and I go inside, and there was FBI all inside of the building. They pulled me in. They put me in a room. They talked to me for like an hour. They interrogated me. How long have you been working for this company? How did you meet the people that hired me? There are all kinds of questions about.
What was the reason of it?
Apparently, they were using the company to launder drug money. Mm-hmm. I kind of suspected, because a lot of we were doing high end. We were doing like Lamborghinis. We were doing like Porsche. We were doing very, very high end vehicles. And I started seeing all this money moving through the company. And I'm project manager, so I understand. Like I know what these projects are supposed to cost. So I knew there was something kind of funny going on with accounting, but I'm getting, you know, $5,000 on the first of every month or something like that, like $5 or $6 grand on the first of every month for salary. So I wasn't asking any questions. So apparently they were using it as a drug laundering, money laundering operation for, I don't know which cocaine cartel out of South America or whatever was going on.
It's a very heavy crime in America.
Yeah.
Money laundering.
Money laundering, yeah.
Maybe it's because Miami, a lot of Spanish people from Mexican cartels. Yeah?
It's all predominantly, and they sell a lot of cocaine in Miami.
And also in San Diego police had charges against me, and I know that San Diego, a lot of Spanish people too.
Yeah, it was close to the border.
Yeah.
I didn't have a job, and so the owner's wife actually showed up while all this was going on, and she wrote me a check for the remainder of my salary for the rest of the year. And she's like, you know, go to the bank and cash this right now. She's like, don't wait. She's like, leave here, go to the bank and cash this.
I understand, because tomorrow maybe
they're gonna shut the accounts. Yeah. She's like, go cash this check right now.
And what?
Yeah, so I drove right to there. I cashed the check. It was like, I don't know, like $60,000 or something like that for the remainder of my salary. And at this point, I'm like, okay. I went from living in my car to, I had a nice condo on Brickell, downtown Miami. I had a new Cadillac, like a 2000, I don't remember what it was, but it was like a brand new Cadillac. I had nice things, you know, I had a little money in the bank. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, I can get another job. Now I have a years of experience with this company. I've been project manager. I know the field. I have a very strong portfolio. I've got a good resume, and I have good work ethic. I started applying.
You had the possibility to establish your own design company.
Yes, that was also another.
One of variants.
Yeah, and that was also another. I was going to do like freelance graphic design. So I was looking at all these different avenues, and I started applying to all of these jobs for graphic design, and they all wanted to pay me like $12 an hour, $10 an hour. That's like $300 a week.
This, yeah.
I'm making $80K a year. I got a fucking condo that's cost me $3,500 a month. I got a $1,000 Cadillac car payment, and it's just like I can't. So I couldn't find another job making the money I needed to sustain the lifestyle that I was living. And I wasn't about to go back to living in my fucking car.
I understand.
I'm not going back to the streets.
Because you tried the best.
Yeah, I'm used to living good now, and now I'm comfortable. Now I can wake up in the morning and I have my own apartment. And
you felt yourself like a human.
Yes.
That days.
Yes, I felt human.
Maybe first time in your life.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Like I said, I couldn't get another job making that much money, and now so a part of the issue now was I have all these bills to pay. And I have all these student loans to pay off, which I had paid off a good chunk of the student loans. The company actually helped me pay a large chunk of my student loans. That was a part of the deal of me going and working for them, is they were going to help me pay down my student loans. So I knocked out a large chunk of my student loans, but I still had a lot left to do. And now I'm like, fuck, what do I do? I'm not going to work construction. You know what I mean? I'm 5'7", 145 pounds. There's no way I'm going to go climb around on a construction site and hang drywall and do roofing or anything like that. Not out in the Florida heat. I'm not built for manual labor. You know what I mean? I'm just not going to do it.
But I think that days you had very good possibilities to make money through website design, web design.
Yes, so I could have done web design.
You know Craigslist?
Yes.
It's so outdated. Design of Craigslist is from 40 years ago.
I know, it's so simple. Yeah,
but,
it's so simple.
But it's the second most visited site in United States, second after Facebook maybe.
Yeah.
Just imagine.
It's wild. They never changed their design. It's been the same almost from the start, pretty much. So I had a couple different avenues. So I started doing a little bit of freelance graphic design, but I mean, this is 2004. So it's not like what it is today where you've got Fiverr and you've got Upwork and you've got all these different platforms where people come and you can just, subcontract out. Like, it was like finding clientele was extremely difficult back then.
Because you need a lot of reviews, good reviews, and also in Russia we have two platforms for freelancers too. You told about Fiverr, and also Upwork. It's a world famous platform, but in Russia we have fl.ru and Quark. We have, but a lot of Indians now. In every area, a lot of Indians, and I think
they'll do it for pennies on a dollar.
And for it's hard to find a good job on them, and also hard for us, for companies, to hire a good worker too.
Yes, yeah. I didn't know what to do at the time, and at this time, one of my friends was like, he was doing carding, but he didn't really understand what he was doing, but he told me about it. And he's like, yeah, you can get these, you can go on these websites or these carding forums and you can buy these numbers. And he's like, you can go online, and he kind of explained to me. He didn't really understand how it worked, but he knew about it and he told me about it. And that's what kind of led me down the rabbit hole of carding. And that's how I started doing my own research. And that's when I found Dark Market. That's when I found Carter Planet. That's when I found Carter.su. That's when I started finding all of these carding forums. And then I just started reading tutorials. And I'm like, fuck, maybe I can make a little bit of money doing this. But I didn't know what I was going to do at first. I didn't know if I was thinking about printing currency. I was just trying to learn everything. And then I was learning bank fraud, money laundering, counterfeiting currency. And then I came across the carding. And I came across the online carding. And I'd read 2 or 3 tutorials on how to do virtual carding. I learned about the IP addresses. I learned about the BIN numbers. I learned about like you said, whether it's a financial institution issues the card and how to use it. So I'm like, okay, let me try and buy some cards here and see, how we can do this. That was like a whole thing in itself. I got scammed so many times, like trying to buy card numbers that I almost gave up.
On carding forums?
Yeah, like I got scammed 3 or 4 times. And I'm like, dude, I almost gave up. I'm like, this is some bullshit. And then I got a good batch. I got a really good batch of about 50 cards. And I think I paid maybe between $2 and $5 each.
For one number.
For one number.
American cards.
American. And it came with the first name, last name. It came with the credit card number, the expiration date, the 3-digit security code from the back of the card, and
and full billing address.
Full billing address and the zip code and everything. That was the packet, the full I got, the information. I didn't have the date of birth or the social security number.
But because you don't
need it. Yeah, I don't need it. Yeah, I didn't need it. But so then I got a really good batch. So then what I was doing is I was going online and I didn't know what to card at first. Like I didn't know, should I go after big ticket electronic items? Should I go more niche and do things that they wouldn't expect? So then it was like a process of just trying to figure out what products to get to resell. But it was a lot of legwork because you have to have a drop address to have the stuff sent to. And then, sometimes the orders they'd get shut down, they wouldn't go out. So I would have maybe 2 out of every 5 or 6 orders would go through and I would actually have the stuff shipped, so it was just a lot of legwork. It was just a lot of work. So I started reading more tutorials, and that's when I found out about the in-store carding, about the brick and mortar.
In Russian tradition, we called it real plastic. Real plastic. Yeah, in our tradition.
Okay. Yeah, it's called in-store in the States. So I read a couple tutorials on that, and I was like, man, I would probably like to do that a little bit more because I felt like the profit margin would be a little bit better than the online carding.
Have you been fascinated that day when you found?
Oh yeah, obsessed.
Me too.
I didn't sleep for 2 or 3 days. I stood up until the sun came up, just reading tutorials, and my mind was blown by this because this was I was like, are you kidding me? This is amazing. And then once I started doing it and started working, and I started having successful orders go through, I remember the day all the hair I still get excited by thinking about it. Even 20 years later now, I still get goosebumps thinking about when my first orders started coming through for me. So that's when I transitioned into the in-store carding, the real plastic.
Had you any experience in using your own legal credit card before? Because as for our samples, we didn't use credit cards before fake cards anymore. We didn't had any cards, only cash in our countries because we hadn't enough stores with POS terminals.
Okay.
So we had no experience. And my first experience of using bank card was with fake card.
Really?
Yeah, with not real.
Okay. No, I never had a credit card, but I had debit cards. Because
it was the same.
Well, no, debit cards and credit cards weren't the same because debit cards only gave you access to the money that was in your bank account.
Yeah, I understand. But when you make the payment process, it's the same.
Yes, yeah, pretty much the same. Yeah, so I started getting into the online carding or in-store carding because I felt like the profit margin was going to be a lot better with the in-store carding. So then I started buying dumps instead of, fulls or whatever. So I started buying dumps, and I remember I went on eBay and I bought the MSR 206 reader-writer.
206.
206. Yeah, MSR 206.
We had the same model. And also we had before 106, MSR 106. I can't remember the difference, but it was the worst model.
Yeah. It was a lot bigger and bulkier. The 106 and then 206, and then came the mini. They came the MSR 306. The minis came out after a while. But no, I bought a MSR 206 reader-writer and then
encoder, magnetic stripe encoder,
magnetic strip encoder. And then when I went on the carding forums and I was buying dumps, and in the beginning it took a while to find the right batch of dumps to use in my area. Because what I started figuring out is bin information was regional in the United States. And once I figured out which bins worked in what region of the United States, the success rate of my carding got a lot higher. So once I figured out a good bin system to use in South Florida, where I'm from, and it happened to be it was a teachers credit union. Horrible, I know, because I'm stealing from teachers. They don't make any money. I feel horrible about that now, but for whatever, this small credit union, they must have not had really good security, because almost every card I would max out. Like, I would just go and go and go and go until it didn't work anymore. And so I got a really good batch of dumps in the beginning, and I wasn't buying plastic at this time because I didn't have the money to buy the plastic. What I was doing is I would go to like Walgreens, Walmart, CVS, and they would get they had these Visa gift cards. But you would
Visa gift cards?
But you would have to take it to the counter to activate it. But what I was doing, I would just take my bag and I would just take the whole rack. I'd steal all of them. And I would take them home, and I'd take them all out of the packages, and then I'd have these big stacks of Visa gift cards, and I would just write dumps to the Visa gift cards. And then I would go out to the stores, and I would use...
And it was without the name, yeah?
Yeah, there was no name. It would just say gift.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So what I would do is when I encoded the dump, instead of putting the name in, I would just put Visa gift, or gift Visa backwards with a little slash. So to make it look like a gift card. So when they swiped it, it would...
Just a moment. He doesn't lie about... with, because he knows the difference that in dumps inside the last name is first on the first position. Yeah. So
separated by a forward slash and then 2 asterisks on either side, and then followed by 6 zeros. Like, I can encode dumps in my head right now. Yeah. Oh yeah, I know the track 1 and track 2. Yeah, by heart. Yeah.
I will tell in Russian.
So what is this about? Not many people actually know this, that in the dump data, the one that you put on the magnetic stripe of the card, the last name comes first. It's enclosed in asterisks, and he knows all the ins and outs of this. So obviously we're not dealing with an amateur here. And honestly, I wouldn't even remember such subtle stuff right now. And we're now talking about track 1 and track 2.
But I remember one thing, but for ATM was enough only track 2. For ATM.
You only needed track 2.
Only track 2.
Yeah. Because track 2 is what allowed the POS machine to communicate with the bank. Yeah, you didn't even need track 1. Because track 1 was...
Track 1 only for sleep.
Yes. Track 1 was basically just the information that was on the card. You had the card number, then the expiration date, and then the name, and then like 6 or 7 zeros. I think it was 9 zeros. It was either 6 or 9 zeros.
Different banks has different lengths.
Yeah, different. Yeah. But yeah, I still remember how to encode. So yeah, I would just write them to the Visa gift cards, and I would go out, and I was using the Visa gift cards in the stores. But it came to a point to where, you know, I could only card up to a certain amount of money, because anything over $300 or $400, they would they ask for the card. So you'd have to hand the card to the cashier, and the POS machine wouldn't let the cashier process the sale until she typed in the last 4 digits that were on the card into the machine to make sure that
what's the 4 digits?
The last 4 digits of the credit card number. So she had to type them. She had to look at the card and type those in, and then swipe it to make sure that they matched. There was a limit on how much I could get. So now I have to look into buying plastic, and then the real plastic. So that's when I started going on the forums, and I started looking into buying plastic. And plastic was like, you know, I think it was like $50 for a blank or $30 for one blank. And that was not embossed or encoded or anything. That was just a blank.
Like Visa Electron.
Yeah, they would sell me the blank. Then I had to go online and I had to order the embossing machine. In the beginning,
embosser, it was expensive thing.
Really expensive.
I've bought
like
$5,000. Matica Z3. Yeah. It was cost about $6,000.
I was going to say about $6,000. So
also you need to have embosser and tipper. But Matica Z3 had
it was all in one.
Tipper inside.
Tipper is such a thing for foil embossing to make the letters silver.
It was all
and
in
also, one. But one more thing, they had no special symbol V for Visa and M for Mastercard.
Right. Yeah.
And we made like a tool,
stamp.
tool.
Yeah. I had one.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the beginning, I couldn't afford one of those, so I had to get the manual with the wheel on it, and where you had to punch in each number, zoom, click, click, zoom, click, click. And then if you mess one up, you're fucked. You got to take the card out, you got to throw it away, you got to put a new card in, and so the spacing had to be right for the characters. So that's how I started. And then I had a manual tipping machine. So I had one of the ones where you had to set the temperature on the hot foil machine. So after I cut it out of the embosser, I had to get the hot foil machine, and sometimes if the temperature was too high, it would flatten. It would flatten the numbers on the cards. So it was just like, dude, it was a learning process.
Burn in fire.
yeah, dude. It would like an iron. It would flatten the embossed numbers on the card. Like it was just like, what the fuck. So it was a learning curve in the beginning. So after I would buy the blanks. I would bought the manual embossing machine. I bought the hot foil tipping machine. Now I'm ready to go out. And of course I had to buy a novelty ID. Because I didn't have a printer. I wasn't making cards or anything at this time. I eventually did. But so I had to buy a novelty ID. Those were like $300 each.
$300?
Those were about $300 for a Nav.
I think it's expensive.
Yeah, I'm sure I was getting ripped off or taxed, but there was only one or two guys on the site selling them, and they were like $300. So I had to buy a novelty ID, and then I had to buy all that equipment. So now I'm ready to go out and start really in-store carding.
But one more thing. Try to imagine what I want to ask. One more thing before going to the store.
Are you talking about the black light features, the UV features on the cards?
Check the work or not. Is it card work or not? Because it's a very, very bad thing.
If it doesn't.
To get the code like 07 or 04.
Call hold.
Yeah.
Call hold. Oh, I know. I had plenty of those.
Keep him and call to police.
Yep.
Yeah. And what you did for it? For check cards.
I would
because in Russia we used Comstar.
Well, they had a car wash.
Comstar public phones.
Yeah, they had a car wash.
Car wash?
You could go to, and you could just swipe the card at the car wash. Automatic car wash. They had those, and then I would go to like McDonald's or something, and you just swipe the card at McDonald's, and for something,
small amount for $1,
$2-3, yeah, $2-3, $1, $2, $3, just to make sure the card works. Yeah, before I go and make the big purchase.
Okay, because for us it was a big problem, really. Not in every city we had public phones with credit cards.
Oh, really?
At first. And often we used online checkers, like merchants for porn sites, for example. But after their fucking checkers, we paid $1 for one check. $1, and after that was often situation when cards were blocked after checking. Yep. And you tell your dump seller, you sold me shit. He told it was okay in the day when I sold you, but your online checking killed this card.
Yeah. And that's another thing about bins. That's where bins come in, because certain bins work really well in certain areas. If it's a local card, so it's why really learning the bin system really helps you out with your success rate. I found when I was doing it anyway. So now I'm ready to go out to the stores. Now I can card. I can go out. I can get pretty much whatever I want now if the card works. Now I have no questions about whether or not it's real because they're good cards. I had it down. I was making them. There was they looked good.
Looks good?
Yeah, they were good. I had to buy a separate printer for the UV. I had to buy a Zebra printer, because the Zebra printers were the only ones that had the UV ribbon. The Fargo printers didn't have the UV ribbons. None of the other printers could print in UVs. For whatever reason, Zebra, I don't remember what model it was, but the Zebra printer was the only one you could print UV images in for like black light features for the cards. So once I had a product that I knew I could go out and card with, now I was ready to go out and card. Now I'm going out, I'm getting televisions, I'm getting PlayStations, I'm just going crazy. I'm buying groceries. I'm going to the grocery store and loading up the grocery cart. It was really like a free-for-all for about 6 or 8 months. And I remember thinking to myself, I wanted to scale the operation. And so in order to do that, I was...
And what you felt after your first successful shopping?
It was like a drug. It was like being high on drugs, because the endorphins are going. It's like being able to walk into a store and buy whatever you want and not look at the price was like an amazing feeling.
I was thinking that now from this day I am rich enough. to buy whatever I want.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever I want.
Yeah, I could go anywhere I want. I could fill the gas tank. I could go out to eat.
Not yachts, not private jets, sure.
Not yet.
But for consumer products, whatever I want.
Shoes, clothes. Yeah, it was
gold.
It was nice, man. I didn't really go after the jewelry. I was too scared to go like for watches and jewelry and like the high-end bags and stuff. So I kept it simple. I kept it big screen TVs, PlayStations, laptop computers, cell phones.
For easy reselling.
Craigslist. They'd be. I'd list it in 2 hours. They'd be gone. It'd be gone. I'd be meeting people all day long, selling stuff.
What's the size of discount you gave your customers?
So I would do 50 or 60% of retail.
50, 60?
So whatever it was retail, I would knock off like 30 or 40% of retail, and they would go fast. And so it came down to like, in order to scale the operation, I had to involve more people.
Like drops for going to the stores?
Yeah, get people going out to the stores because because of the way I grew up, I don't trust anybody. I don't trust people. I wasn't going to involve anybody else in my criminal activities because I didn't trust them not to tell on me or try and fuck me over and rob me. That's just how I am. Like I operate in life under the assumption that everybody's out to fuck you. That's how my mind works. Everybody's out to fuck me. Everybody's out to take advantage of you. So I've always been like on my guard.
So you decided to grow up your business.
I needed to figure out a way to scale the business because I just wanted to make more money. I was all right making the money I was making, but it was
how much you had possibility to make in one person?
By myself, I was doing about between $5,000 and $6,000 a week. $5,000 and $6,000 a week.
Oh, not much.
Not much. No,
because
not much.
When I was going to the gold stores, it was much more. Yeah. One day, 5, 10, one day.
Yeah. So it wasn't that much money. And I was doing a lot of legwork. And I was having to go into the stores myself. And I was putting my face on all these cameras. Okay, I go out one day and I get 5 laptops. That's a good day, right? It's a great fucking day. But I got to go out tomorrow and I got to do it again. And I got to do it again, and I got to do it again. And I can only go into the Walmart so many times before they recognize me coming in here all the time, and I go to jail. So it was like, man, there's just no way for me to really scale this without involving other people. So I went on the forums, and something I was thinking about while all this was going on, I heard somebody tell me a long time ago during the gold rush back in the 1800s when people were traveling from the east coast of the United States by like horse and wagon. They were going out west to mine gold, to pan for gold, because there was a giant gold rush going on out west. California, Colorado, the Colorado River. People were out there making millionaires overnight from nothing. And I remember someone telling me a story, or maybe I heard it on a program on television. The people who made the most money during the gold rush wasn't the people mining the gold. It was the guys out there selling the pickaxes.
Who supported them.
Who was selling the pickaxes. Yeah. They were the guys making all the money. And I was like, because I was trying to find some kind of, what's the word I'm looking for here? I was looking for some kind of way to scale the business. And so some kind of model, that's the word I'm looking for. I was looking for some kind of model to base the business on to scale it. So when I thought about this, and I was like, man, I've been buying these cards, buying this plastic online. A lot of the times, it's not that good when it comes. Like it was the quality of the printing wasn't that good. I had to wait sometimes 2 weeks to get 1 or 2 pieces of plastic. These guys just weren't that reliable. I didn't really feel like the marketplace for plastic, for people vending plastic at that time, it was shit.
We had very bad plastic too before we met offset plastic. Offset technology offset printing is used for print newspapers and magazine, and it is very quality printing, and you can print very small font.
Yes, micro print. Yeah.
Whereas Visa logotype. On the borders, Visa.
The micro
very small macro printing. Yeah.
So I just looked at the marketplace and I seen an opportunity, and I was like, listen, these cards can't be that hard to make, you know. And I was like, if I can bring a better product to the marketplace, not only a better product but also better customer service, I think I could do pretty well just making the cards and selling the cards. So that's when I set out to stop doing the in-store carding, and I just wanted to become a vendor. So now it took me down this rabbit hole of learning everything I could about making plastic.
Remember us, please, the prices, regular prices in America these days. No, in online these days for bad plastic. Not from you that
I was buying. So there were no vendors in America selling plastic. All the vendors were either in Russia or they were in Western Europe. That's where all the plastic
Romanians, I think, yeah.
Yes.
Bulgarians, Romanians.
There was no plastic coming out of the U.S. Nobody was doing it. And this is before, like you said, this was 25 years ago. So this was kind of like underground. Like this was a subculture. Like nobody really knew anything about it. So I went on the forums, and there really weren't a whole lot of tutorials.
But what's the prices?
Oh, sorry, yeah. So for one piece of plastic, blank plastic, not embossed, not tipped anything, it was like $25.
25.
It was $25.
With hologram?
With Visa hologram, MasterCard hologram, just the plain
normal quality or bad hologram. I mean,
they weren't though. The quality, no, it wasn't heat press. It was sticker. Mm-hmm. It was the sticker holograms. Yeah,
and you can
touch, you can peel them right. You could peel them right off. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't that good quality. You know. And at this time, when I was trying to learn how to make cards, there weren't very many tutorials teaching you how to print cards, like talking about like DPI and talking about like the kinds of printers you use and the technology you use. There wasn't a whole lot of information. So really I had to figure out which printers to use. I had to figure out how to set up the printers, how to, run the temperature settings on the print heads. I knew graphic design, so I understood how to make the Visa logos and the credit card designs, and I had to figure out how to do the SIG strip on the back of the card, which was like a whole thing in itself. I had to buy a special printer for that. So once I learned once I figured out how to make the plastic, then I had to go about purchasing all of the equipment. I had to buy the Fargo printer, and this is how I figured out which printer to use. When you go to the DMV in the United States,
what is DMV?
Department of Motor Vehicles, it's where they issue your driver's license. They print the cards right there at the DMV, like right behind them. They print the cards, and so when I went to the DMV, this just happened by accident.
Keeping plastic.
Yeah, this just happened by accident. So while I'm learning, I lost my driver's license or something happens. I had to go to the DMV to get it. Just so happens I looked behind them and I looked at the model number of the printer they were using to print the driver's licenses. Right, I remember this when they gave me my driver's license, it was still warm from the printer. And I was like, as soon as I got in the parking lot of the DMV, I was on my phone trying to find the model of the printer because I wanted to see if it was something that was readily available to the public. Because I didn't know if I could buy it or only the DMV could buy those printers. And sure enough...
Officials only.
Yeah, sure enough, those printers were readily available on the internet. I mean, granted, they were $6,500. And so it was the Fargo HDP 5000 was the initial printer that I started using. It was the printer that the DMV was using. And it was like $6,500. And I remember I had just enough money to buy the printer, buy the ribbons for the printer, the printing ribbons for the printer. Those things were like $325 each. And then I had enough money to buy a data card embossing tipping machine, like the automatic, like the big one. Those things are fucking huge. Those things were like this big.
Like this, yeah.
So I bought the Fargo HDP, I bought the automatic, I bought the data card system, and then I bought the Zebra printer for the holograms. And then it was just trial and error. Trying just printing, messing with different DPIs, messing with different, like you said, the micro printing, figuring out the micro printing. I think the hardest thing for me making plastic was the SIG strip on the back because it had to be raised from the plastic. Like you could catch your fingernail on it, but you couldn't peel it off. You know what I mean? But in the printers that I was using, like I was trying to print the SIG strip on, but you could tell it was printed on. So what I was doing in the beginning is I would print the SIG strip on and then I would mask it off with tape and I'd spray it with like hairspray or like there's this matte spray you can get that you spray like canvases with to like seal them after you painted them. And I knew that from painting. And it was like in the canvas would have like a texture to it after you sprayed. So I would mask off with masking tape the area of the SIG strip, and I'd spray them with this matte spray to give it that raised, texturized feel. Now, this is before I figured out.
Like in original metal foil that you can avoid
Yes, yes, yeah. So, but then I figured out how to print the SIG strip after a while. There was a special printer I could get that would print label. It was like kind of like a label printer, but it would print. It was for mail. It was for the stickers you put on the mailing on envelopes. For like, say, like you had like your custom address that you didn't want to write it out every time. You just wanted to print them out and stick it on the envelope. Well, I figured out that printer made the SIG strips perfect. So, I would have the template laid out and I would print that and I'm like, okay, well now I got the SIG strips figured out. So once I had a product that was indistinguishable from that issued from a financial institution, now I had a product to take to market. So now I had to figure out not only how to market my product, but how to advertise and how to become a vendor on all of these carding forums. Because it wasn't like you could just start posting and selling right away. Like you had to, obviously, you had to get vendor status on the forums. So then I had to go through the process of contacting all the administrators from all of the forums, and I would sending them out cards like this. I would send them out 5 or 10
like samples.
Yeah, like this is what I'm doing. And so once I got approved for that, then I got approved for vendor status on the very first carding forum I started vending on was carter.su, and my name was US Plastico, which in the end ended up fucking me.
But why US Plastico?
I don't know, man. Like I thought I was being clever.
Maybe Ru Plastico.
I don't know, like I thought I was being clever, like as I was in the United States, so it was United States Plastic Company was like the long name, so but shortened it up, it was US Plastico. I thought I was being clever, and in the end, that ended up kind of fucking me. So I started vending on carter.su.
What about holograms? Because in Russia we had the problems with holograms too. So one very experienced team in plastic printing, they started their business from Visa Electron because Visa Electron had no hologram.
Well, so this is how I tackled that issue. At first, I ordered these stickers. Mm-hmm. And they were crap. They were garbage. They were raised way too much. They were, because do you remember the old Visa cards? They used to be the big...
UV. No, not UV, maybe stickers.
No, they had the hologram on them. They had the multi-spec hologram. But they were just, you could tell. Like after you swiped it once or twice, you could see the marks. And they would start peeling up. So this is how Alibaba?
Yeah.
I went on the Alibaba.
Alibaba is the head of AliExpress.
Yes. I went on Alibaba back in the day, and I would find vendors on Alibaba that sold the foil holograms. Now they weren't advertising Visa or MasterCard, but it was just like, and they would come in these big rolls, and they were foil. They were heat press. And I just took a shot in the dark, and I started sending out emails. And I was sending them, so what I did is I sent pictures of what I wanted. I was sent them pictures of the Visa and the MasterCard. To email, just through the email. Mm-hmm. And I emailed probably like 100 of them. Eventually, one person emailed me back and was like, how many do you need? And they're like, minimum orders like 10,000 or whatever.
10,000.
Yeah, so I ordered a roll of 10,000 Visa Dove holograms, and they came in the mail. And they were fucking legit, So I had one of those boards where you would cut. And I would cut them. I would spend hours because they would come in a roll, so they were all together. So I'd have to spend hours just cutting all these little Visas out. And then I had the heat stamp machine.
And the quality was good?
Oh yeah, they were
perfect.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, and there was trial and error because the old heat foil tipping machine that I bought before I bought the automatic one that did everything, I was using that to heat press the holograms onto the cards. And sometimes if you didn't have the heat settings right, it would melt the hologram and it would disfigure the dove and all that. So it took me probably 3 months of just learning temperature settings, printer settings,
And what was the expenses for one card?
I don't know.
Hologram, $50. Plastic
holograms were like 50 cents each. I think 10,000 of them was like 25 cents each. I was buying the plastic in the long boxes. I would get maybe 500 of them.
White color CR80 blank cards with magnetic stripe.
I was getting the silver ones too. Like the kind of the shiny, there was silver
for
cards.
Visa Platinum.
Yeah. And the BOA, the Bank of America cards. I want to say maybe $2 or $3 per cards. I think, if you really want to factor in everything. Like I said, once I had a viable product, I went and I started contacting administrators. I finally was able to become vendor status on Carter.su. And right around this time, there was a big thing had went down in Western Europe where they started cracking down. They started raiding and busting all of these plastic vendors. And I remember seeing the videos, like on the carding forums, they were posting videos of like these dudes getting busted over there with like, they were using skimmers, the ATM skimmers. And this is in the early days of the ATM skimmers when they were like on the NCR machines, the NCR ATM machines, when they had like the big skimmer they used to fucking glue onto the front of there. So I remember the bust went down and they busted 2 or 3 guys over there in Europe that were vending plastic. So now all of a sudden there's this big vacuum in the marketplace. So I was just in the right place at the right time. Like I came in right when all these guys were getting caught. So there was nobody else really vending plastic when I very first started.
Do you know my prices? The Chinese makes me the best offset quality.
Hong Kong.
Yeah,
it's all coming out of Hong Kong now. Yeah,
it's about from $3 to $5.
Is what you were paying
only
for finished product?
Yeah. For me, $3-5. I've paid, for example, $3,000 for 1,000 maximum, and it was the perfect offset printing, perfect holograms. The best like original, yeah, and very cheap prices. But I've sold it. I think $40-50, 51.
Oh, it's you were selling them for.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Resell
the plastic. Yeah. Once like I said, there was this big vacuum going on. I was just in the right place at the right time. Like there was nobody else vending plastic at this time. I was the only one. So I seen my sales go almost overnight from 1, maybe 2 orders a month. And what I was doing is I was doing $1,000 minimum order. Like I wasn't doing $1,000 minimum order. Like I wasn't doing one here.
50 cards for $20.
I was doing $10 each. I was doing 100 cards for $1,000. $1,000 minimum order. I'll give you 100 cards, blank plastic, not embossed, not tipped, just the blank plastic.
But when I sold the same thing, was more often customers, they asked me to encode their dumps on the cards and emboss for them.
Yes.
And get ready.
And I did that as well. I guess, but that was extra. So I would charge extra for that service because obviously it was more work.
Like prostitutes,
extra. Yeah, extra. No, that's extra. It's going to cost you. So I would charge extra for that. And then I also had like a dumps vendor that I was working with.
Who was the dumps vendor in your time? Because I'm familiar with all of them. All of them were Russians. All of them. All the hackers, all the dump sources were Russians.
Yeah, I think I have it. I think I have it written down.
And were a lot of resellers, sure, but
a lot of resellers. But the main guys,
like me, because I was a reseller too. But the sources of dumps was always Russians.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the name of the. I think his name was
Gabrik Tron, Scorpa, Script.
I remember Script.
Script.
Yeah, I remember Script. Maxic.
Maxic?
Yeah, I think Maxic was my main source for dumps.
Maxic, I remember him. Sure, he was after me in the times when I was in prison first time. He took my place, he was after me. And do you know his fate?
No.
He got 30 years in prison in Turkey. Because Americans, United States Secret Service, they invited him.
They tricked him into coming over there?
For the meeting, maybe to Thailand, would be Thailand, but through the Turkey. And when the United States authorities told Turkish government to give this man extradite to United States, Turkish government denied because he was selling not only American cards, he was selling Turkish cards, too.
So
they gave him 30 years in prison. And Turkish prison, it's a very, very bad prison because I've seen one movie about Turkish prison.
Midnight Express?
Midnight Train. Midnight Train. And it's...
I've seen that movie too.
So he was in prison. I don't know exactly how many years. I think from 5 to 6, maybe 7. And after they extradited him to Ukraine because he is native Ukrainian. And now I don't know his fate.
So he didn't do the whole 30 years.
From 5 to 7, I think.
Okay.
And Ukrainians, they freed him up. But Maxik was he was a big source of dumps, but he was also being a reseller. He is not a seller. He's a reseller like me.
Okay. Yeah. I remember that was one of the main guys I used to get dumps from, was Mexic. Yeah, so like I said, I ended up just being the #1 dumps vendor for, I don't know, from 2005 to 2009. For about 4 years. That's all I did. I know I was the #1 dumps vendor in America. And I don't know about the world, but I know for a short period of time, I was doing, at the very pinnacle of what I deemed to be my success, I was doing probably 100 orders a month. 100, sometimes more, sometimes less, but on average, about 100 orders a month. So about $100,000 a month.
And do you remember Akihiko Tobe, Chinese, who was selling equipment for my cards? Akihiko Tobe.
It sounds familiar, man.
Okay, it doesn't matter.
No, it sounds familiar. Yeah, it's just this is 20 years ago, so it's hard to remember. Yeah, and then so I was doing about 100 orders a month on average, so about $100,000 a month on average. Yeah, at the very pinnacle of my success.
What was your age at that days?
I started when I was 20 until I was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So between 20 and 24. I was about 24 years old when at the very peak. And over this 4 years, I think I had accumulated maybe $3.5 to $4.2 million. Somewhere along those lines. Yeah.
What was your lifestyle that days when you was making $100,000 per month?
Yeah, I had a new car.
Describe us, please.
I had a new car. I had a really nice condo.
Which model?
I had a Cadillac STS, cream, brand new, sunroof, leather seats. All the bells and whistles. I had a really nice condo, downtown Brickell, Miami. I bought it, paid for it. I had, the best.
How much you paid for rent?
My condo was $3,200 a month, $3,200 a month, and this is 20 years ago. So it was now a regular apartment's $3,200 a month, but back then you're living back then. I had $7,000 leather sofas. I had the biggest TV that they sold at Best Buy. I had every gadget, gizmo, everything that I wanted. I had the newest phone. I would take vacations all the time. I was flying all over the place.
And that days you weren't using fake cards for buy stuff in stores for yourself.
No, when I started vending plastic, I stopped using it.
Me too.
Yeah,
me too,
because I felt like it'd be too much of a big risk.
Yeah,
too much of a risk.
And the days you have enough money to buy whatever you want for you.
Why use the cards?
Yeah.
It's too much. It's stupid. It's a stupid risk. Yeah, so once I started vending plastic, I stopped using it because I had the money to pay for whatever I wanted. Yeah, I used to fly all over the place. I used to fly private, instead of commercial. I used to fly private from...
I never used before.
You never flew private?
No.
Oh, it's nice. They had these...
I am not rich enough.
They had these services in the U.S. Where you give them like $100,000 and you get so many flight hours. And all I had was a phone number. And anywhere I was, I could call this number and they would send a private car to pick me up and take me to like the Fort Lauderdale International Executive Airport.
And how much for one flight, for example, from Florida to New York, for example?
A private?
Yeah.
It's probably about $3,500, $4,000.
$4,000.
But I was buying packages. So for like $100,000, I would get like 30 flight hours. So every flight I would take, they would just knock flight hours off of my package. And yeah, so I would fly. I would have a number.
So from LA to San Diego, for example, it would be...
Oh, it's only like an hour flight. Yeah, hour 45 minutes or something like that. It's a real quick flight. But me living on the East Coast, all my flights were out to the West Coast.
So you have the possibility to travel on the private jet from LA to San Diego, for example.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, it's only it's like a 4-hour flight. Okay. But I had 30 hours. I had 30 hours available to me on a private jet for like $100,000. So anytime I wanted to fly, I had this number. I would call them. They would send a Lincoln Town car. No matter where I was, they would send a private car to pick me up, take me to the executive airport. I'd get on my fucking private jet and I'd fly to wherever I wanted to fly to. It was great. It was like that was like probably like the funnest thing I did.
Like a rock star.
Like a rock star. Yeah. And then
you know this song?
Of course, Party Like a Rock Star. Yeah, yeah, of course.
Post Malone.
Yeah,
One of my favorite.
yeah, and so yeah, I would fly. I was flying everywhere. I had nice cars. Uh, I never. It's one lucky. I think one thing about me that I've just been lucky is I never got into drugs. Whatever that mechanism for addiction that people have, I don't have that inside of me. So I partied. Of course, I partied, and I used to. I've done cocaine and stuff, but I could do it and then not do it. Like it wouldn't. I don't have that proclivity for addiction. Like I just don't have that inside of me. So I got lucky. I never got into the drugs. I never got into like heroin or pills or cocaine or anything like that. I smoke weed on a daily basis. Like I'm a daily weed smoker, but that's
Smoking weed was illegal that days too.
no,
yeah?
illegal.
No? Illegal.
Oh yeah, yeah, illegal. And so I wasn't really into big partying. So I wasn't going and like throwing money around at the club or going to strip clubs or anything like that. I was just quiet. I knew better than to buy $1 million in jewelry. Like I didn't do dumb shit that was going to send me to prison with the money. See, here's the thing. I was scared to spend it, kind of. Like I was afraid to buy a house because the IRS, they're going to ask, where'd you get the money? So it was like I didn't buy a big house. I had a nice car, but it wasn't brand new. Like I didn't go to the lot and buy it brand new with 0 miles. Like they were used. They were a few years old with low miles. I wasn't wearing the jewelry. I wasn't going out partying. I'm all about experiences in life over material shit. I would rather fly somewhere for a weekend and hang out by a pool and go to like a resort and go eat at a couple nice restaurants and maybe go see a movie, go ride a jet ski, go to a theme park and ride roller coasters. I would rather do that than go and buy jewelry or go and buy like a new car or like a new watch or something like that. I was more about experiences. So a lot of the money that I was making from this, I was constantly on the move. And whenever I needed to print cards, I would just fly home. I'd print out 5, 6, 7, 800 cards. I'd spend 2 or 3 days just printing. And I would have all the cards in my safe so that when the orders came in, I could just go and grab, fill the orders, send the order out, collect the money, and I didn't really have to do a whole lot of work.
Describe me how you was sending the orders, because when we sent through the world, we used at first, for example, DHL or FedEx. It doesn't matter which is the company, but we packed into computer speakers or even in DVD player, for example, inside.
Yeah, I was using...
we always used different techniques.
Yeah, I was using routers. So what I would do is I'd go on eBay and I would buy like a lot of like 100 routers that were all like broken or needed parts or components. I would take all the insides out, put the cards on the inside, put the router back together, put it in a box, vacuum seal the box, and then I went online, I actually created like a legitimate company. And I told people that I sold refurbished computer equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And then so even like going through customs, because a lot of my cards were going internationally. So for international customs, you got to have a BOL, something called a BOL. It's called a bill of lading. And you have to have a manifest that goes on the outside of the box to let customs know what's inside, what company it's coming from, the weight of the package, all that stuff. So once I figured out, all the shipping process, I went online, I built a website for I called it I don't even remember what the name of the company was, but we bought and sold refurbished computer equipment. I built a website. I created an LLC, I registered an LLC, legitimate company. I had like a bank account, like a business bank account, everything. So if anybody were to look into the company,
like legal business,
it'd be a legitimate company. On paper, it was a legitimate company, but really that's what I'm using to send out all of these cards with. Yeah. Yeah, and the old guy went in the box and went through. I think that he thought, this is how I got caught. I'll tell the story how I got caught. So, like I said, I was operating from 2004 or 2005 to about 2009. Then in 2009, I get with this girl. I meet a girl in Fort Lauderdale. I get her pregnant. She has a baby. My son. This is when my son comes into play. She's from South Carolina. She wanted to move back to South Carolina to be closer to her family because her family they didn't really know my son, so she wanted my son to grow up around. She wanted her mother and her cousins and everything. So I'm thinking like, I can do this wherever. It doesn't matter where I'm at. I can do this wherever I'm at. So I'm like, okay, let's go to South Carolina. I still had my condo in Miami, but so we went to South Carolina and we bought a townhouse in South Carolina. In South Carolina, there were only in Miami and South Florida, there's something called a UPS store. And it's a franchise. It's basically where you go, you can rent a mailbox, you can receive mail, you can send mail out. And in South Florida, there's hundreds of them. They're everywhere. I mean, you put UPS store in your GPS and they're just every 5 miles, there's one. And that's what I was using to mail my cards out. But what I was doing is I was printing my mail. I was doing all of my postals through a software called Pitney Bowes. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's like you have your own scale at the house. You weigh your box. You pay for all of your shipping using a credit card. It prints out your shipping label. You put it on the box, and then you just take it to the UPS store and be like, I need you to put this in your outgoing mail. And it goes out. And I never had to use the same UPS store twice because there were so many of them. And even though I had probably 15 or 20 packages going out every single week, I could just go to different UPS stores, take it in, drop it off, they scan it, it goes in the out, and no problem. I get to South Carolina, there were two UPS stores in this little town that I was sending packages out of. And so I had to go to the one UPS store. I was there all the time, all week long, sending out packages, and my packages were going everywhere. They're going to Europe, they're going to South America, all over the United States. I think that the guy running the UPS store thought I was mailing drugs. So he thinks I'm mailing drugs. So that's why he went in one of my boxes. I go to drop a package off one day. He opens it, goes in the box and finds the credit cards, finds the plastic that I was mailing out. He contacted the Postmaster General. The Postmaster General.
U.S. Postal.
So the Postmaster General is like the top guy who handles all of the Postal Service stuff. He handles like all of the fraud, he handles like the just the day-to-day operations of the United States Postal Service. And every city has a Postmaster General, like the one guy that's in charge of everything. So he goes to the Postmaster General. He shows the Postmaster General what I was sending out. The Postmaster General then contacts the United States Secret Service. Now the Secret Service comes down to the UPS store. I had used a driver's license, somebody else's driver's license with my picture, fake, because I was making driver's license at this time. I was making really, really good driver's licenses at this time as well, and I was also vending those. So the Secret Service comes down, they go to the UPS store, they find my picture on somebody else's driver's license, they run the name on the driver's license. Obviously, it came back with somebody else's picture, so they don't know who I am at this time. They sat in the parking lot of the UPS store for 5 days, from open to close, waiting for me to come up there to either send out a package or to receive one. And finally, on the 5th day, I received an email telling me that I had a package waiting for me there. And I actually did. It's like when you receive mail, they'll send you an email telling you received 2 packages today. So I walk in, I sign for my package, and I'm going to walk out the door. And coming through the door, blocking the door are 2 guys. And they weren't in uniforms. But I was going to grab the door handle and I seen a badge and a gun. And it still didn't register to me because I've been doing this for 4 years. I'm super comfortable. You know what I mean? I'm comfortable. I'm never watching my back. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not worried about the Secret Service or anybody watching me because I'm using a VPN when I connect to all of these Carter forums. I never used my home internet. I never use my home internet, so they don't have my ISP address or none of that. And when I'm communicating with my clients, I don't tell them who I am or where I'm from. I don't tell them, I'm not trying to be friends with them. You know what I mean? And a lot of them, they would ask me like weird questions about, like, oh, what are you doing today or where are you from? I'm like, nah, that's not happening. I'm not answering those questions. So I knew that there was no way of me getting caught through the forums. There was no way of them finding out where I was. I was anonymous. The only way they could figure out where I was at was these goddamn UPS stores. There was only 2 UPS stores in this town.
But he did illegal things, yeah?
He did, yeah.
Because he had no rights to open your package.
The Postmaster General is the only one with the authority to open mail after the postage has been paid for. I go to the UPS store, like I said, to pick up a package. 2 guys are walking in. They got badges and they got guns. And they said, Ryan Pearson, because that's the name that I was using at the time. They said, Ryan Pearson. And I was like, yeah. They're like, well, we need to talk to you about what you've been sending out of here. And I was like, oh, fuck. That's when it hit me. I was like, oh, man. That's when I finally realized, like, oh, they got me. Like, they figured out what I've been doing. And they were like, well, we need to talk to you about what you've been sending out of here. And I'm like, I tried to play stupid at first. I'm like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, I have no idea. Like, listen, we got your package. We know what you've been sending out of here. We got the cards. And then, for a second, I just shut down. Like I didn't know what to say. I didn't have a story planned out in my head because I didn't never plan on getting caught. So this isn't something that I had ever rehearsed. This isn't something that I had ever planned for, which I should have, but I just didn't. And so they took me in the back of the UPS store in an office, and they were just like, okay, well, like, what's your real name? And I sat back in my seat for a minute, and I was like, and I'm like, they don't know who I am. They don't know what I'm doing. They don't know how long I've been doing this. They have no information. Because if they did, I'd be in handcuffs. We'd be having a completely different conversation. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, how much information do I give them without completely, because I wasn't going to tell on myself. You know what I mean? I wasn't going to just spill the beans right there. I was thinking like, okay, how do I get out of this? I'm going to lie as much as I can.
But I think you had one weak place. It was because you juvenile criminal and your fingerprints was in police databases.
Yeah, I had been arrested previously. So yeah, my fingerprints were definitely in the databases. So they had, like I said, they had the cards. So if they fingerprinted the cards, they could have figured out who I was, but they just didn't. I'm like, okay, well, how am I going to get out of this? How much information can I give them to try and get the hell out of this situation? So I gave them my name, and they ran me on the phone. They called it in. They got a copy of my real driver's license and my social security number and all that. It's like, okay, you are telling us the truth. I minimized everything. I was like, I've only been doing this for about a month. I've been printing credit cards in my closet. I haven't really made any money. I've only been doing this about a month. And they're like, okay. And they're like, well, we need, because they thought that I was a part of a bigger operation. They refused to believe that I was the only one doing it by myself. And I tried to tell them, multiple times. And they're like, okay, well, you need to cooperate with us. And I was like, well, listen, I'm going to jail. So I really don't need to cooperate with you. I was like, let's just go to jail. Let's go to jail, and I'll deal with the judge, and I'll get a lawyer. And they're like, well, if you cooperate with us today, you're not going to jail. I was like, I'm not going to jail. And I didn't believe them. I thought they were just, being full of shit. I was like, you're going to arrest me anyway. You're going to take me to jail. So they're like, no, you're not going to go to jail. I was like, well, I need that in writing. I need a piece of paper saying that, he got on the phone with his superior, his supervisor, and they had a piece of paper faxed to the UPS store, saying that, give us your full statement and, sign this piece of paper. You will not be arrested today. You will have a court date. You're going to have to go to court, eventually, but you're not going to be arrested today. You are going to have to come down to the Secret Service headquarters and give like a debriefing, give like a statement, and they're going to grill me. If I can walk away from this situation right now, I'm gone. Like, I'm not going to give any statement. I'm not going to court. I'm fucking out of here. I had to tell them, like, okay, I've only been doing this a few months. I have printers and stuff at my house. So they had another piece of paper faxed over.
In Carolina, you had all the stuff?
In South Carolina, I had set up a printer, and I had bought a whole, because I had stuff set up in Miami. Then I bought a whole another more printers and embossers and everything. I had a lab set up in I had a spare room. I had 3-bedroom. So when I had a spare bedroom all set up, printers, embosser, heat, everything at the house. So then I had to sign another piece of paper saying that they could come to my house and search and seize anything that was used in the commission of the crime. So they put me in their car. They drove me down to my condo. Luckily, my girlfriend wasn't there at the time. Her and my son were at her mom and dad's house. They came in, they searched my whole apartment. I was like, so before we go in here, I was like, I have marijuana in here, and I have like guns in my house. I had multiple firearms. A couple of handguns. I had an AK-47. I had an AR-15. But at this time, I don't have a criminal record. I'm not a felon. And I had my concealed weapons license. So I was licensed to carry a firearm in the United States. And so when they came in there, they left the guns and the drugs. They're like, we're not the ATF, which is the Department of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. They're like, we're not the ATF. We don't care about that. So I had about a quarter pound of marijuana in my freezer, and I had firearms all over the house. They left all that there. They took my printers. They took the embossers. They took anything with removable storage on it. All the laptops, the cell phone. They didn't have cell phones. This is before cell phones.
All for carding.
Yeah, so they had we had digital cameras at this time because cell phones didn't have cameras on them yet. This is 2009 or whatever. They took anything with removables. They took all my printers, my laptops. They took everything. I mean, they cleaned me out. They gave me a card and they were like, "You need to be at this address on this date to give us a statement." And they left. And they made me give them all my passwords for my Carter.su login. They made me give me my ICQ login, all of my logins for everything. And that was part of the deal, or else I was going to jail. So I had to give them all my logins. Luckily, I for whatever reason, I was always paranoid. I never kept my chat logs on the ICQ. I never kept the chat history of any of the conversations I had ever. So when they logged into my ICQ, it was all blank. Luckily, it was all blank, or that would have buried me. I would have been done, cooked, because they would have had all the conversations between me and all the customers and everything. So, and I never kept any paperwork at the house for invoices or anything like that. It was all digital. So I had a storage unit set to the side. I had a car in my storage unit. I had like a little bit of money. I kept cash in there. So after this happened, I was going to go on the run. I was just going to take off and fucking go on the run. But my girlfriend I was with at the time, she was like, "Listen, if they were going to take you to jail, they would have took you to jail." She was like, "Just go down and talk to them. It's going to buy us a little bit more time. If you don't go, they're going to put a warrant out for your arrest right now, and they're going to be looking for you right now." So I went down. It was like a week later. I remember I walk into this room. It was the it was the District of South Carolina Secret Service. It was like, for whatever region of the United States, it was like the central headquarters. Dude, I walk into this room and there's this long table in this room and there's all these dudes sitting in this table. They flew people in from Washington, D.C. They flew people in from Las Vegas. They flew people in from California.
All the country.
All the country, from the financial...
U.S. Postal Service inspectors, sure, financial, yeah.
The financial crimes division from California, like the forensic data analysis people from D.C. They flew all these people in for this one meeting. And I walk in and they had screenshots of all of my posts from all of the forums in the middle of the table. All my vending posts from Carter.su. Every time I made a comment under anybody else's post, any tutorial, it was somebody's job to go and scour.
For the end of your story, you should subscribe to mine and to his channel, and we will continue next time.
Anyway, leave your questions in the comment section and we'll record the second part because things are about to get really intense here with prison stories and all of that. So we'll cover it the next time. And I'll see you in the next video.